I trust my intuition. That's what it is. I feel this strong sense of intuition and I just trust it. Mm-hmm. And what that is beyond intuition, is up for discussion, but it's the word we use is intuition. And I feel like I have a very strong intuition and I just trust it. I just let go and I trust it.
Welcome to the Soul Secrets Podcast. We're your hosts, Kirstin
and Carli,
where we open up our hearts to you in hopes that you'll open yours to ours. Tell them why we're here, Carli.
Oh, I'll tell you. How about inspiration, transformation, of course, self-love, and fearless expression?
We're going to share stories of triumph and tragedy and everything in between, what we've learned and what we've gained, and in hopes that it'll help you along the way.
Let me tell you something, y'all. We've spent a lifetime keeping it inside, and we finally realized that it's our time to shine and speak our minds. You know you're going to want to hear it. Stick around while we share our soul secrets.
Okay, so we're back, and we're here to talk about our soul secrets. And I think in the past episode, we were talking about our past and how it's brought us to where we are today. And we were wondering if could you leave a comment and maybe let us know what would be something that happened in your past that you've had to overcome? Because we did talk a lot about us. So I want to hear a little bit about what our listeners think. Or do we have any listeners? Maybe we don't. I don't know. It was just our first podcast.
I think we have one listener at least.
We do.
We have three because you're here.
Yeah.
Miguel's here. I'm here. We got three.
At least. And I'm sure
my husband's going
to listen and maybe your mom. I don't know. Maybe not. So anyway, I think we wanted to move on and talk about a little bit about what we're doing now and who we are now and in our lives right now and what is going on. I know you mentioned before to everybody that you're a nurse and you're working on an album. So tell us how that's going.
Sure. So part of my healing journey and life's expression and finding my voice was finding music when I went through a massive transformation or the implosion of my long-term 22-year relationship and the castle that I built, over those 22 years, not knowing who I was, didn't know how to use my voice. And so I recognized quickly that being a nurse was something that my father wanted me to do. It was just my family was in the medical field. They gave me options. I said yes. I mean, you just believe your parents. I was the oldest daughter. And you know how oldest children are. They just do what their parents say, I would think, some of them.
And you wanted to make money. Nurses make good money. Sure, you want it to be normal. You want it to be in a good career.
It was just what was presented. Like, this is how you live life. So
yeah. And meanwhile, you were being a nurse and I was doing the same thing. I got out of college and was like, okay, time to find a job, even though I had switched my majors probably 6 times and ended up in general studies, graduating in general studies with a minor in child and family studies because I loved working with kids. But I also had started a job in college where I was working for a very prestigious restaurant and I would see a lot of people come in, nurses and doctors and pharmaceutical sales reps. And that's when I thought to myself, wow, I want to be a salesperson. I want to sell things because it looked so fun. They were coming in and had just having dinner and just schmoozing people. And that was it. That was their job. I was like, I could go and have a nice steak and talk to people. And that sounds so fun. So I switched my major to general studies because at that point I was like, well, there's no point in finishing off the child and family studies if I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. So I got out of college with a general studies degree and basically was just, people would say, well, what are you going to do? And I'd say, well, I'd like to get a job in pharmaceutical sales, but I really don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I might be standing in the grocery store line just buying a few groceries and the person behind me may just say hi and we might get into a conversation because I like to talk to strangers. So so they may say, oh, well, you like doing this, that, or the other. Maybe you should, my friend has an opening at this place or that place. And so people would always ask me, what are you going to do? What do you want to do? And I'd say, I really don't know. I can tell you some things that I enjoy doing, but I don't know where life's going to bring me. And I was happy to just go with the flow and just let things happen the way they're supposed to happen. I mean, did I really want a pharmaceutical sales job? Yes, that's what I wanted. Everywhere I turned, everybody I met, they, would say, I'm going to help you get into that. I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I am a pharmaceutical sales rep. I can help you. And then I would talk to the company and they'd say, oh, well, you don't have any experience. And I would say, okay, well then how do I get experience? Who's going to hire me? And from there, I just, I kind of felt a little lost. I took a job working at an apartment complex. I was a leasing agent. I really did enjoy the job. I dealt with people a lot. And then I was moved up to assistant manager. It was a beautiful apartment complex. I got a free apartment plus a salary. It was great. But, in my mind, I did want some sort of career. I still had dreams. My dream at the time was actually to be a life coach. I wanted to be a counselor all through college, but I didn't want the schooling. So I didn't want to go through all the schooling. So I thought, oh, maybe this was way before being a life coach was cool. I really want to be a life coach. So I just kind of went on about working there, still trying to apply for pharmaceutical sales jobs. And there was a friend of mine who kind of emailed everybody, all the friends, just saying, hey, I got a new job. I'm working for an alcohol distributor. I'll be selling beer, wine, liquor. And I thought, well, maybe I should do that. It's just funny how things just come about, And I swear to you, it was the very next day. I'm 27 years old at the time. I'm not going out anymore. This is not, what I do. And my mom, who doesn't go out, at all either, she had a couple of friends that wanted to come see a little Portuguese band play at the jazz club. And this was literally a random Tuesday. And she says, I'm coming to town. Do you want to come meet us? Well, of course I'm going to go meet her, So I go to meet her, and the guy that's standing at the door, I thought he was the guy that was supposed to take your license to get you in and all that. And he's like, no, I don't need your license. And I'm thinking, okay, what are you doing? And he says, well, would you like to taste some wine? And I was like, oh, well, of course. And then we go over to the table where he's got all these samples of wine, and he pours me a little bit of wine. And I'm like, wait a minute, you sell wine. You're a wine sales rep. And he was like, yes. And I went, my friend just told me he's doing that yesterday. And I just thought, that's something I want to do. And here it is, the opportunity just right there, literally the next day. I said, this is what I want to do. It would be fun. And the next day I was presented with this opportunity. And he says, I'm a wine sales rep. And I say, really, this is something I'd really think I want to do. And he chatted with me for a little while. And then he says, is this something you really want to do? Are you serious about this? And I said, well, of course. He said, okay, send me your resume. I'll send it over to my boss. And fast forward a couple of weeks later, I meet up with his boss. We're chatting, and I get into this interview. We're just meeting at a restaurant. We're chatting, and I'm going into this, and I'm like, I'm going to sell myself, like I can be a salesman, and I had literally just started drinking wine a little bit, because at the time wine was not something that people drank as a cocktail. This was like for people who had money and they just had it with their dinner. This was not just something you drink. And so I really didn't know that much about wine. I was getting into it. I did like it, but it wasn't anything I had any experience with per se. And I am going in there trying to sell myself, not even thinking, what do I know about wine, or is he even going to ask? And then here comes the question. He says, so what do you know about wine? And in about 1 second, my whole life, it's like that, just flashed in front of me. Like, what am I going to tell this guy? I can't BS him. I don't know anything about wine. What am I going to say? And it just came to me. And I just said out loud, well, I like to drink it. And he said, he was kind of, torn, thrown back like, wow, okay. So she doesn't know anything about wine, but he kind of giggled and he laughed and he said, well, you know what? He said, as long as you like the product, I can teach you everything you need to know about it. And I said, okay. And a few months later, I kind of gone with him and seen the company and everything. And I said, I want to do this. And he said, we want to hire you. And I did that. And I did that for 13 years. And it was not anything I ever, as a kid, ever said, I'm going to sell wine. What kid would even, not even just being in sales, So doing that really got me out of my shell too. And I was able to learn how to communicate with people and just build trustful relationships and things like that. And so it really helped. And then in the meantime, I was dating my husband and he was a photographer and wanting to have his own photography business. So I was supporting him with that, with his photography business. And then I started enjoying it so much that I stepped up as well. And he said, you know what, you need to take the lead. You have the personality. Photography is more about personality. And I can teach you all the actual, camera settings, everything like that. And so that's where our photography business started, together. And then I became so in love with photography, and I love the way it makes people feel when I photograph them. And that also brought out a whole new side of me. And so that's where I am currently. We have our own business, And we started it from zero, from nothing, and we grew it to a 6-figure business within 10 years. And it could have probably been sooner if we would have just bit the bullet and went full time. But it's a story for another time of how I managed to manifest being full-time photography and letting my job go. And it was a spectacular thing. It's the best thing we've ever did. And that's where we are. We are full-time photographers, my husband and I together. And it's a beautiful thing. And, just living that dream and now doing a podcast.
I
With
know.
you, Carli.
You're right. It is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as you were speaking, the differences between like how you, how wine repping or all the things that you were doing chose you and how you kind of allowed that to happen and the way that it came to you. So it's interesting that that was going on from a very long, a young age, where you were listening to the call and allowing like life to happen, for you. With nursing with me, for me, nursing was, it was just something I was learning. I had to make money. We had kids, married, those type of things. So I was like, I got to finish. At the time, my husband at the time was drafted to play professional baseball and I was still in nursing school. So he's traveling all over the place. I'm in nursing school and I'm like trying to get this done because we have a baby and I want to go travel the world with him or the US, I should say, and so I did. Once I graduated, our son was 3 and I got a nursing license in like 3 or 4 states so that our family could be together. So it was, was like nursing was like a pathway for that, for me to go to Arizona while spring training was happening and go to Asheville, North Carolina to watch, the single A, Colorado Rockies team play because he was a left-handed pitcher. And it was just really a fun thing to be in the stands, while your man was on the mound, throwing those pitches was so fun. And so nursing really allowed me to travel and do all those things, even though now I know that, is not my now truth. It did serve, its purpose. It provided at every level of life, in every state for all kinds of stuff. And my husband at the time too would just see me going, my gosh, you already got a job? Like I would get a job in every state, daycare in every state. And I'm thinking to myself, I was 23 when that happened. And I'm thinking, how did I do that?
You were on it. I mean, you were like, I'm doing this. I'm an adult. I have to do this.
Yeah, I'm an adult and I've got to do it, And so I did nursing for, many years and then recently had a relationship realignment and let go of 22 years, a relationship because of some misalignment things. And so it was in that misalignment and that decision where like my whole world crumbled. I was like, this castle that I built, being a nurse for this many years and we bought a house and we're renting the house and we're doing all these things, kids are growing up and all this stuff. And I realized, do I like this? Who am I? Because this castle was built on something else that didn't feel real. And so that was the journey of continuing my heart's healing through like discovering why I made choices. Like, why did I become a nurse? Like, why did these things happen? And so I began to write music. And each song that I wrote, I mean, there's something about validating your own heart and soul by writing lyrics and making a song out of it.
Well, and you started to remember, you were telling me how when you were a child, you would sing in the shower and how much you loved singing in the shower. And so I think when you were going through that, realignment in your life, all these things started flooding back about when you were a kid, what you liked. It's like you almost forgot who you were that whole time.
I did forget.
Yeah,
I did.
for sure.
And all I had was a flash of a memory. It's not like I remembered all these things happening when I was 6. I just remembered, well, who am I and what do I like to do? And I had no idea. I had one memory, like singing in the car. And I went, I think I like to sing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that is when the first producer showed up down the street 2 miles away from Nicaragua because a friend of mine Facebook messaged and said, I really love your music. And he was like, oh, thank you so much. He goes, I'm flying into Houston tomorrow. Where do you live? And my friend said, Houston. And he said, well, I'm going to be at my friend's house in Northeast East Houston. And she was like, well, we live in this specific little town 2 miles down the street.
Yeah.
So he helped me write my first song and really helped me like find my voice initially. And it wasn't pretty. I mean, it was like terrifying. I was having massive emotional
I think
releases,
you were probably fighting within yourself too. Like, is this really, am I good? Is this really me? Like, no one ever told me this is something I could do.
Right.
And I remember one night we were talking and I said, Carli, just go find some photos. Send me some photos of yourself when you were 6. Go back and find those photos of that little girl. And when you pulled up those photos and you sent them to me, I was like, look at her. No, like really look at her. Look in her eyes. Like, what does she want? Who is she? What does she see the world as?
Mhm.
And I think I remember you told me it was kind of like before something happened. Someone had shortly, like after that, someone told you something that basically kind of just made you think, oh, okay, well, that's not really me. I need to do, XYZ. Can't really think about those things. And I often wonder, just in general, like how many children are feeling that way? Like at what point, when does our desires change, or when do we stop looking into our own soul
Well,
and
you don't
start performing for other people?
well, you don't even know that you have those desires because they were never cultivated. It was like, you're growing up, I had a great life, great parents, trying new things. But then it was like, okay, when you're 18, you go to college, you get a job, you make money. Like
Right.
that was it.
That's our
So
culture.
imagination was out the door. Validating the heart from a young child to grow into something or a continuous creative expression was like, it wasn't there.
Right.
Then you throw in having a baby and getting married, at age 20 and 23. Then
yeah,
it's
like another stump in the road.
It's just another thing. It's like, because creativity wasn't not allowed, but it was not recognized, because it can only be recognized by those that recognize it in themselves. So however your parents can recognize it is how you're going to receive it, and experience it.
Yeah. And I would love to know other like listeners' experience of like when it was when they were a child, when they felt like it kind of the imagination stopped or their dreams stopped and they felt like they had to listen to, adults or other people, or when was it when your dreams changed, or when you stopped having dreams, or when you stopped using your imagination? And I mean, I would love to discover more in the future with this podcast and talking more about what we can do as people to keep those dreams alive. And then as parents as well, what can we do as parents to help our kids continue living their dreams, and to know that their imagination is real. It's not just something, it's not a word. Imagination is not just a word. It's an actual real thing. And when you think of something in your imagination, especially like as a kid, and then you're told, oh, that's just your imagination, you kind of push it to the side. You push it back because someone just told you that's your imagination. That's not real. And so what can we do, as parents to keep that from happening to our children? And I know for me, I try to remind my kids, that I'm really proud of them, everything they do. I'm just proud of who they are. They'll sometimes say, "You're proud of me for what?" And I say, "Just for who you are," so that they keep going. And I think that's, really, really important. It's something I'd really like to touch more on the future as well in the podcast.
Definitely, for sure. So we were talking about one thing that I noticed when you were sharing your story about your how you became a wine rep and your introspection on that pathway. What I noticed is that it seemed like you were so connected to your heart from such a very young age, even in your 20s, like connecting to the heart and like trusting that life will unfold for you and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I seriously remember being, I want to say I was 3, I don't know. And, we were Catholic growing up, and I just always felt like I should be able to have this connection with God, there's just something bigger. I knew there was something bigger, and that I should have this really close connection and this like friendship. And then I don't know where it came from, the trust for myself. But I do feel like it came at a young age, or maybe I was born with it. I don't know. I mean, maybe some of us are born with that. Maybe some aren't. And maybe that's some of the lesson that we're here to learn. You might need to learn that lesson, and maybe that wasn't the lesson I needed to learn.
Right.
I came in trusting myself maybe, and then maybe I'm learning other lessons. But yeah, it was definitely something I guess I learned later in life that maybe most people don't trust themselves.
For sure.
And it has reminded me what a value that is that I have, and I'm very grateful for it. I really am. But that's also what I want to share with others.
Yeah.
And I would also like to know, does anyone else feel like they were born with that? Like, am I the only one in the world? Like, I mean, I can't possibly be, but it would be it would be nice to hear from other people if they felt like they were born with this trust for themselves. And I'm not saying I didn't go through periods of my life, and I still do, where not happy with who I am or what, I know I have faults, and I see my faults, and I try to work on my faults, and I don't always do well working on my faults, but I trust my intuition. That's what it is. I feel this strong sense of intuition, and I just trust it.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is beyond intuition, is up for discussion, but it's the word we use is intuition. And I feel like I have a very strong intuition, and I just trust it. I just let go and I trust it.
I love that. Amazing. And it reminds me of, my pathway, which was kind of giving up that at a young age, giving it away to the culture, family expectations, fulfillment of duties.
Yeah, duties.
And leaving everything, like all of creation out, all of creativity, all of heart trust completely out, not realizing that.
Well, you get caught up in this earthly thing.
For sure.
All of this around us and everyone around you, and you forget your intuition. You forget you have it, or you don't forget it. You almost push it back, because I think that sometimes our intuition, like, comes to the forefront, and it's not exactly what your parents or your friends or whatever are saying or doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, get out of here. Like, you're ruining my life, intuition, like, this isn't
right, because you're not getting positive feedback from
right.
society
And so you
at
think
large.
it must be wrong. My intuition must be wrong.
Right.
And I think it eventually kind of gets silenced.
For sure. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
With me. Absolutely.
And
so
that's a sad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking to, the mothers, the women, or whoever wants to hear it, where they realize it or they don't realize it, that they gave away their voice to someone else's desires and choices and expectations.
Yeah. I mean, that could be anyone.
And
I mean, it happens.
If you have a disruption in your life, it could be a good thing. It could be for you to see what's actually running right now, what programs are running here. And so after the divorce, 22 years, that was a massive disruption in my patterns that caused me to think, like, who am I? What's going on? What's happening? Of course, this was years and years and years of healing and introspection that started before that, but 3 years to be exact of, healing from that. And that's where, when I started finding my voice, it was through creativity and full expression. It was through music and songs. It was like singing and writing about whatever the heck I felt like writing about, regardless if the beat sounded good or if the producer was good or whatever.
Yeah. But you were doing it.
Believe me, the perfectionism was in there, and I was just like, is this right? How do I do this? And learning
and I kept
scratch.
reminding you, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this is perfect. And just like this podcast, like, I mean, we decided we want to do a podcast because we just had such good conversations with each other, and we thought, well, this is some good information to share.
I know. Definitely.
So, we started the podcast, and just baby step by baby step. But it took us just saying, let's make a podcast. And then it took lots of months and discussions about what it would, what it would be called, down to what the set would look like. And then we just kept putting it together, little bits and pieces. And then it came to today, and then it happened. So we just didn't give up along the way.
For sure.
And it's still going to take another 50 to 100 episodes for anyone to even listen to it, I'm sure. So, and
I don't think so.
Well, it doesn't matter, because we're doing it and we're having fun.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you're writing your music, I told you that your voice sounds the best when you're just having fun, when you're not worried because this producer said you need to sing along in this sort of way, or your voice needs to be up instead of down, or whatever it is. You're just singing. And when it's like dancing in the rain, or sing like nobody's listening, that kind of thing.
For sure.
It's a real thing. You know?
Definitely being seen and heard by yourself is such a process. It's such a process that is not, cut and dry as far as how long it's going to take. It might take you 1 month, might take you 2 weeks to get through like something, whatever it is, but to allow yourself that space
and grace.
Create that thing that you want will heal your timeline instantly, will heal you from the brokenness, the pain, all the things. It will heal you exponentially. So now, fast forward, what I'm doing right now is this podcast is super amazing. I'm just so excited to talk, to speak, to
get
share
your voice out
to people who want to hear the gold, versus just talking to people that don't really understand what I'm saying, like people can pick up on it and like it or leave it, whatever.
Right.
But, or also making music, like, being a music artist now, I can say I'm a music artist, and I've got an 8-song EP coming out, and I'm
I
preparing.
know, and you're doing all of that while you're still doing home health care.
Yeah, doing nursing
And,
still.
I know you're really good at that and you love what you do, but that's the grounded part where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this because I do have a family to support, but you're also living your dream at the same time. And there is going to come a day when you're going to just step out of that job.
I know. I can't
completely,
wait.
right?
I know. We're doing it right now.
Yeah, this is part of it. I mean, this is the start of it.
This is
and
it. Hey, guys.
Because this podcast is so amazing.
It is.
We're having millions of viewers,
For sure.
eventually.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's the start to something beautiful, and this is on record.
On record.
This is on record.
On record.
And soon you're going to see Carli stepping out of the nursing position.
Touring all over the world. Making music for movies.
Yeah, touching hearts everywhere, sponsoring retreats, doing retreats, leading retreats,
yes.
I should say, changing lives.
With my children in tow, being fully expressed
and
in the way they want.
And while you're doing that, your soul is growing,
beaming,
and changing,
expanding.
And you're looking right into it, and getting the best out of it. And
it's so beautiful.
Because why? Because you have time to stop. You stopped doing the everyday mundane 8 to 5 things.
Right.
And you started looking into yourself. You built a little bit of space and grace, and you started expanding your soul and listening to your soul, listening to your intuition.
Yeah, you got to have space.
Yeah, and trusting your intuition, even though it's hard. It really is hard. I mean, you and I call each other all the time, and
it
say,
it is hard.
Oh my gosh, I know we're supposed to be, just trusting our intuition, but this is scary.
Sure,
it is. This is happening, and
going
it's scary,
into the unknown. Absolutely, going into the unknown, and then realizing certain things and patterns that are coming up, like being attached to your daddy. I have this daddy complex, getting off the teat, and just having that daddy complex everywhere. Everywhere I go means I think that everyone will love me like my daddy does.
Right.
And they will gift me with the best of themselves, and then I will be fully expressed as me through each person because they're my daddy. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So recognizing that way of being is not serving as well, because not everybody's your daddy, if you know what I'm saying. So that's been a process for sure, walking out, making music and stuff, and going what's your fantasy, Carli? What's happening? What's real? How much have you done? Are you writing? Are you recording? Or are you just dreaming about some possibility? What is going on? So
yeah,
all that to say is I'd like to say, I don't know, my soul secret for this would be start now.
Right.
Validating your heart and soul. Look in the mirror and say, what do you want, baby?
Yeah.
And give it to yourself.
If you're in the car, if you're listening to this, you're driving in the car, look in the rearview mirror. Just look in the rearview mirror. Look into your eyes and see that 6-year-old. And what is that 6-year-old saying to you?
I want to play.
Right. Yeah. What does she want?
She wants to play.
Yeah. What do they want? What is that child saying is their future? What did you want back then? It's okay. You can do it now.
It's honestly just to play without measurements. It's literally just to be.
Right. I think that's all.
Fun.
That's all kids want.
It. And that's all,
Yeah. I mean, they just want to play. They just want to have fun. They don't want to think about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow. They just want to play right now.
That's right.
And I mean,
taking a sip.
The secret is just live in the now and be who you want to be right now, because the past does not exist. It's over. It's done. It doesn't exist. The future does not exist. And we don't need to worry.
Well, it's really interesting because, when you are living a life that's for someone else, somebody else's promises, you're not only doing that, but you're running from self, right? You're running from the true part of you that doesn't want the thing that you're doing. And so when you're constantly running from self because you're not doing what you want, you're always looking for something outside of yourself, which is fine because you're learning. I mean, you are learning through people, through experiences, whatever it is. But there comes a moment in time where that's got to stop. It's exhausting. It's expensive. How do you go within and find your answer?
And it gets kind of boring, to be honest with you.
In a way that resonates with you, So I think being in that spot right now is finally saying, okay, when did I start running? And I realized I started running as soon as I had the thought, I don't belong. at a young age, even in Louisiana,
Yeah.
thinking, I don't even like this state. I don't like, it was so weird thinking that as a child, but I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think it had to do with the culture of and the consciousness of I cannot be who I want to be. And as a very young age, it's amazing what the little children know, which is everything. Because I asked the question, I was like, hey, God, why did I say that at 6 years old? I don't want XYZ. I don't like this culture. I don't like this thing. Because it did not provide the fullest expression or reflection of who I am.
Who you want it to be, even, you know?
All of it, whatever. I mean, I didn't care about wanting to be anything. I was 6, you know?
Yeah.
But like that whole idea, and I realized, wow, that's when I started running. It was when I had the thought, I don't belong, which was true. I didn't belong in the reality that I didn't like. But now I'm creating a new one.
That's right.
Let's say it again, ladies and gentlemen. Creating a new reality.
Do it.
Will fuel you to the ends of the earth in every moment.
And you can do it right this minute.
I'm doing it right now. Cheers.
We don't even have to, you don't even have to plan that. I mean, that's something you can do right this minute. It's like a switch. You'll hear me say that a lot, right, Carly? I talk about the switch all the time.
Yeah, it gets super annoying because I'm I don't know how to do it.
Just switch. Just turn the switch, Carly. Just turn the switch.
What do you
she's
mean?
Like, what switch? You know? So that's something I definitely want to expand upon is just turning the switch.
Yeah. That'll be
and how to turn the switch.
Next episode, switch.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We got a lot more to talk about, but I guess we need to wrap this one up.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm glad that we were here today. We got this done, our first and second episode.
Any soul secrets or takeaways that you'd like to from this episode?
Just to know that, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, like we said before, where you were in the past. It just matters of what you're thinking and doing right now, and that at any moment you can make this switch, you can make this change, and that it doesn't happen overnight. You can still take baby steps, and you can still go for it and give yourself grace.
Yes, you can wait 22 years like I did.
You could.
Or 44.
Or you can do it now.
And then start making your baby steps, or just depending. It's like it's never too late. No. As soon as you say I'm too old is when you shut it down completely, and you keep yourself in that reality. Yep. As soon as you say, I'm too X, I'm too Z, I'm too this, I'm too that, then you literally freeze yourself in time and say, I will not ever be the things that I want to be because it didn't happen whenever and nobody gave you permission, you know, so.
Yeah, and I'm going to hold a little bit of a secret too. You know how I told you you know, I had the dream of having my own business and working for myself. And because we have to end this episode, I have to hold, you know, how that happened, but that there's, you know, secrets and all of that too, you know, going from working a job that, you know, you may not love, working for someone else, to creating a 6-figure business. And that's something that I'm going to expand upon throughout these podcasts. So stay tuned.
I'm loving it. Thank you so much.
You got that.
Lots of light and love, guys. Love ya.
That's right. And you just got sold.
You just got sold.
See you next time, guys. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Tune in next time.